Hi, everyone. I'm Terry.
And I'm Ella.
Welcome to the Chasing Red Flags podcast, Let's Get Real.
Here, no topic is off limits.
And real beats perfect every time.
Welcome to the conversation.
Welcome to where you belong.
You're part of the family now, so let's get real together. We're back.
Hi.
How you feeling?
So excited to be back on this couch.
Ready to do this.
Ready for this episode.
Before we begin, we just want to say thank you so much for being here. It means the world to us. Please subscribe to the Chasing Red Flags podcast, Let's Get Real, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can watch all of our episodes. Ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Today, we're going to be getting real about freshman year of college. So this one's for you if you're about to go into your freshman year or you just finished and you need someone to relate to.
Or if you're a parent or parental figure getting ready to send someone out to college.
Or honestly, anybody that just wants to hear about my real experience going through freshman year. I am currently a junior at the University of Maryland, and I'm absolutely so grateful for the relationships I've made and the friendships I've made and the life I'm building for myself. But I'm going to be honest, as you know, Mom, it was not easy and it did not take a very quick amount of time.
No, it took a long time.
It took a very long time.
Since we're all about being real, you had a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and that was definitely hard on me as well. I think that if you're a parent getting ready to send your kid off to college, you have to remember that this is a milestone for parents too.
I was your first kid off to college. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. But I think we also have to remember that I have a lot to contribute. I thought as we were doing this episode together, I was thinking to myself, what am I going to say? And then I realized how many tips and tricks I have for parents. So
they're great tips and tricks.
I'm excited to get started.
I'm ready.
Okay. Take yourself back 2 years to freshman year.
Okay.
What did you expect?
I was really, really excited. I was so excited to just start a new chapter of my life because I didn't have the best high school experience. And I went to overnight camp for 7 summers, and I stayed in a bunk for 7 weeks with 20 girls, and I've been doing it since I was 9 years old. So I never thought, and it never crossed my mind, that it would be hard to leave home.
No, it didn't cross my mind that it would be hard for you at all. It was so easy for you to leave every summer.
Yeah.
So from what you expected to what it was, what was the difference?
I think I expected to make immediate best friends right away, and it took a lot longer than I thought.
Why did it take longer than you thought?
I think you're meeting so many different people who are on different schedules with classes and the nights that they want to go out and times they go get dinner and lunch, and you want to manage yourself too and put yourself first. So it's a lot to handle at one time, and I was also looking for non-superficial relationships. I wanted to make real, deep friendships with people.
And in the beginning of college, it's a lot of, do you want to go out with me?
Yes.
Do you want to do things at night?
And that's so fun, but
Yes.
I wanted a mixture of both where I could also sit with some girls and talk about my high school experience and cry if I need to.
And get to know people well.
Yeah.
But you had one roommate.
I did.
Who we loved.
A
lot of people have different amounts of roommates and different room situations, but you were in a dorm
Yes.
with one roommate. How was that for you?
It was amazing. I loved it. It felt like I had an automatic friend, and I felt very lucky. I know that a lot of people don't necessarily have that situation or it just doesn't work out. So I count myself so lucky in that sense. I think one of the reasons why I was lucky and handled it very well is I met her beforehand, before we even decided to be roommates. There was a bunch of us that got into Maryland and we all decided to go to the campus and meet each other. And so we ended up staying in a hotel room together. So we kind of bonded.
There was like 30 of you.
Oh, yeah. But we bonded and got to know each other and kind of got deeper before we decided we wanted to room together.
Yes.
So,
and you had spoken a couple times, but I think that sealed the deal. You waited till that weekend.
Absolutely. And I would say there's just so much pressure to rush and find a roommate. And I would just say, take your time and don't rush.
Is that your advice for someone looking for a roommate, or do you have more advice?
Oh, I have so much more.
Okay.
I think.
So what's your advice for someone looking for a roommate right now?
I would say the meeting in person or even FaceTiming a few times and really talking and getting to know each other. And I would say connect on a deeper level. So don't just, do you like to go out and what time do you go to bed? But kind of get to know like their habits and their pet peeves and what their experience in high school was. I did that with my roommate. We bonded about it. She had a similar experience to me. That connected us a lot. And so I think the connection, communication, and respect are like the main things. And you can kind of get a vibe from somebody when you talk to them.
Right. If you ask them the right questions.
Absolutely.
I know people go online and look at questions for the roommate and
Yes.
they're kind of superficial, but you're saying go a little deeper.
Go a little deeper.
Okay. So in the dorm,
Yes.
obviously, big dorm, you're on the first floor. What were the negatives about the dorm?
I mean, it's a dorm room. I could list a few, but
I know you wanted to live in a hotel.
I thought, I mean, I had high expectations, but it was great. I loved it. It was the best experience. I've always wanted to be in a dorm, but there was definitely a lack of privacy, and that was a little bit of a struggle because my roommate and I both had boyfriends, and we had our parents and siblings and friends from home we wanted to talk to, and as much as we loved each other, we wanted our own space to just kind of rant sometimes and do that on our own. So we would communicate and tell each other when we needed the room, and usually we would give each other time, but sometimes I'd just go sit in the hall and like by the staircase and just call you.
Yeah. And I would say to you, can I talk to you later? And you would say, well, I only have the room at 4:00, which was like definitely an adjustment for me as well, that you could only FaceTime or talk to me at certain times when you were alone because
100%.
even the stairwell was public.
Yes.
So coming to visit you, I can add something to the dorm being a negative.
Yes.
The bathrooms are disgusting.
Yes.
So when
They
I came,
are really gross.
they're disgusting.
Yes.
I felt disgusting using them. But I sent you a shower shoes.
Oh my God. They were the best shower shoes ever. They had holes in them, and I know that was so they didn't get moldy, and I wore them in the shower and around the bathroom area every time I would go in there. They were like my designated shoes. They are on your list.
They're on my list.
That was amazing.
Okay.
I would say final thing is the sleeping is a little bit hard because you're in a dorm and the doors are slamming and people are walking by all the time. So I would recommend to get a sound machine. It is my favorite thing in the entire world. You have had one for me since I was a baby and used it with my roommate freshman year, used it with my roommate sophomore year, and I'm going to use it in my apartment this year.
And Dad and I have a sound machine we still sleep with because we can hear cars slamming outside and doors. And your brother sleeps with a sound machine. I know people think our whole family is crazy.
Yes.
We even travel with it. It's so helpful at
it's just
hotels.
like a fan.
But you've gotten all your roommates and people you've lived with into having a sound machine, and now they want a sound machine. So that is also on my list.
Yes.
You and your roommate came to school with high school boyfriends. Yeah. And you both were in long distance relationships. How was that for you guys?
It was complicated. That's a little bit of a complicated question just because it was two different experiences for my roommate and I. I know that I think it would be easier if I just gave both perspectives.
Can you go into a little more detail?
Absolutely. I think there are 3 things that you need before you leave if you want to stay in a long distance relationship. The first one is communication, the second one is trust, and the third one is a visiting plan.
Okay.
I think within communication, how are you going to talk to each other? When are you going to talk to each other? You're both on different schedules at different schools. Maybe there's a time difference. So you have to figure out that kind of.
And it's hard.
It's very hard. It's very hard. And I think along with the communicating, you should be FaceTiming a lot more than calling.
Yeah.
I think you can just see each other's emotions more when you're doing that. And
I think that's for everyone.
that's for everyone. Parents, friends, I just think FaceTime, love calling and you can hear their voices, but when you see their faces too, it just makes it that much more intimate and emotional.
And I think less distracted. I think when people are on the phone, they're doing other things. When they're looking at you, they're looking at you in the eyes.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think how are you going to keep up all of these little things? I was a big package, notes, little gifts when I would send them all to my ex over the school year just to show him that I missed him and that I was thinking of him. And I never really got that in return, and I probably should have seen that red flag a lot earlier, but my roommate got showered with gifts, and when she was sick, her boyfriend would send her Uber Eats and her favorite food, and so that is very important because it shows that they know you by sending you some food that you love and also that they are thinking about you and care about you.
Yeah.
I think
the little things are important.
Very.
I think that's how
you taught me that.
That's how you stay connected to someone long distance is by making sure that it's not just picking up the phone, which is super easy, but that they're like, oh, she's having a bad day. I'm going to do something special for her.
Absolutely.
And again, some of the deliveries that your roommate got were like $5 or $7.
Weed, it was like a Coke and a cookie.
Right. But it was just like, I'm thinking of you
Exactly.
today, which is super nice.
Which I love. I think trust. You need to be confident in your relationship before you leave or you will not work. I think if there is jealousy and cheating beforehand, it is just going to get worse when you go to college.
Everything gets exacerbated
Yes.
when you're in college.
It does.
So you are right. And I would say, as a parent, for my advice, I would say, and I don't know if you think I'm right or wrong about this, but if you know you don't want to be with the person when you graduate college. And again, you're not supposed to know at 20 years old, 18 years old, what if this is your forever person. But if you know it's not your forever person, like you can't imagine your life with them down the road, then you should end things and let each other have their, your single life at school.
I agree. I think the last thing is just having a visiting plan. I think it's really important to keep up that physical connection of seeing each other in person. And you want to meet each other's friends. You're making new lives at these schools, and that's so important to kind of get involved in that too.
So would you recommend someone being in a long-distance relationship?
I think that if you have a healthy relationship before you leave and you love each other, that absolutely it could work. I think I personally tried to make an unhealthy relationship work, and it just exacerbated all of the issues that already happened and just heightened them. And so for me, it didn't, but my roommate is going into year 3 and they're thriving.
They're doing great.
So
yeah,
I think it works.
So obviously being at college and having social media was hard.
Very.
Everyone was posting all the time.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I mean, that was really hard. I think everybody kept posting and saying, I found my people. And how could you find your people in the first 2 weeks of school?
Right.
I couldn't put it together. I felt like I was missing something.
It wasn't that immediate for you.
No, it was
took
not.
time, and you struggled a lot with that. And
Yes.
you were calling me saying, I think I want to come home.
Yes. And I think it was probably a little circumstantial. I was on the first floor. Because I was on the first floor, it wasn't co-ed. We didn't have a common room. And the girls on the other floors started getting a little cliquey because they were all living on the same floor. They were sitting on the same couch hanging out. I tried to do that, and I tried to go up there and hang out, but I just got a lot of PTSD from high school. So that was a little bit of a struggle.
I think what you were communicating to me as a parent was that, you didn't have that on your floor, that community feeling.
Yeah.
And the community feeling that we're trying to build at Chasing Red Flags, but that community feeling was important. You didn't have that common room where everyone was hanging out.
It was the elevators.
And then you felt like you were hanging out on someone else's floor, which was sometimes awkward.
Yes, exactly.
So, but you did find your people.
I did.
And you did find your best friends.
I did.
So what changed that helped you, and what could you give advice for other people to do?
I think you need to put yourself out there. And I put myself out there. There were girls in my hall that I just knocked on their door, and they ended up talking about how they were feeling the same exact way. And we just bonded. We hung out, we got coffee, we got ice cream, and we got to know each other on a really deep level. And that took some time, but I am so grateful that I found them, and
you found incredible friends.
Incredible friends. And I am so glad that it took me a little longer because we really bonded on a deep level, and that's what I was looking for.
Right.
I was looking for my bridesmaids.
Right. But also, it took that long.
Yes.
And it felt like forever.
It did. The friendship side improved, but it really did take so long because I got to school in August.
Yeah. So it took a long time.
Yeah.
What did it feel like being on social media the first 3 months? Think about it.
Yeah.
Just
Well, it was hard, but I think
watching what everyone else was doing.
It was hard because I was on all of my camp friends' stories and private stories, and everyone was posting about they had groups of 10 and 12 girls that they were all friends with right away and posting, and oh, these are my people, my best friends in the whole world. And it made me question if I was at the right school.
And what I kept saying to you, nobody posts crying, miserable
The
pictures.
unhappy parts of your life.
So when they were going out and they were posting all these pictures, you weren't seeing the moments that might not have been so
Exactly.
good.
And there definitely were.
And I think people need to remember that when they're looking at social media and they're having a really hard time, that nobody is necessarily you've been posting a lot of very vulnerable, hard time things.
Yes.
So there are people that do that. But
Absolutely.
most people are not posting pictures of them hysterical crying.
Makes sense.
So for the moms and parents listening, I just would say that it's difficult for us too.
Yes.
And I think we had talked about that, and I didn't put a lot of that on you, but to have your child so unhappy is really hard for a parent too. So we need to be open and talk about what we're going through as well.
Absolutely.
We need support. I mean, I feel bad for my mom. I was calling her every single day. And I did have a couple good friends, and I was trying to be very respectful of you wanting to keep certain things private, but also being really open about how I wasn't getting much sleep and how I was worried. I was sleeping with my phone on my chest every night. So that was definitely a struggle for me.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have anything to apologize for. Listen, this is a part of the process of being a parent.
Yeah.
This is what I love about being a parent, right? I always tell you I don't need much sleep. I'm very lucky. But I think, parents need to know that there's going to be highs and lows at college, and you could have a big stretch of an amazing time and then all of a sudden lose it. And I think it's important to know that, that's going to happen, and that's okay. Yeah. So because you had so many highs and lows, and I was getting all those calls, which again, I was getting a lot of calls, I kept saying to you, I feel like you need people there to confide in. Yeah. And you were like, I don't have those kind of people yet. And you were just starting to meet them. Yeah. I guess personally, I'm just going to ask you this. Why weren't you confiding in anyone outside of school that you were close with?
My friends were happy at school. I mean, my best friend, I confided in her a little bit because she also picked the right place but took her time to find her people too. So I definitely talked to her a little bit, but other than that, I didn't want to talk to my camp friends or anyone because they were all so happy and I didn't want to bring them down. And my ex was pledging and he was already going through so much that I didn't want our only conversations when we were catching up was to me be like, I'm sad, like I don't know if I picked the right place, and thank God that I ended up being okay. But at that time I didn't want to put the burden on anyone else. And
you kept saying to me, I don't want to make anyone else sad.
Yes.
And I kept saying to you, the right people will be okay with you talking about yourself, but you just weren't willing to at the time.
At the time. And so I just think I focused on being a big support system for my ex with pledging, and I put everything into trying to be there for other friends and not focus on what was going on within me.
Yes, you were incredibly focused on helping him and other people and not so much on yourself at the time.
Absolutely.
But then you decided to join a sorority.
I did.
Which is second semester at University of Maryland. How did that fare and how did that help you?
It was amazing, and it was also a little sad. I wouldn't say it hurt, but it was sad because I was meeting 30 new girls and like getting to know all of them, which was amazing. But it was like I was starting over. I just had found my people and my little group of girls, and one of them came with me. We joined the same sorority, but the others, we all kind of split up. So we obviously are still together and we hang out and we do dinners and we catch up, but it was like I was starting over again, trying to meet 30 new girls and make 30 new friends.
Right. Which was just another overwhelming experience, as positive as it was.
Absolutely.
And you had events and things to go to, and now you were managing your time on a different level, but it went back to you having lots of different groups of friends, which is kind of what you had in high school.
Exactly.
So obviously not every school has Greek life.
No.
So for anyone listening that is not in Greek life or doesn't have that at their school, what would you suggest? Are there other ways they can get involved and feel like they meet their people?
There are so many different ways that you can get involved in school. Join an intramural sports team if you want to do sports.
I tried to get you to do
There's
that.
club teams. There's so many different things. I just don't have the time. I wish. I think I run. Yep. There are clubs. There are so many different clubs. There are random clubs. There's a squirrel watching club at the University of Maryland.
Okay. What is a squirrel watching
It's
club?
like pictures of squirrels on Instagram and people watch them. And
I feel like your cousin
community
would literally love that.
Yeah. So like it's whatever you want. There are so many options for you in that sense. I think there are business fraternities, which is awesome. I know they have that at a bunch of different schools. Go to a gym class, a group gym class, meet some people there if you like to work out, or the dining hall. Sit like with some people that you don't know and introduce yourself because everyone else is feeling the same way and everyone else is nervous too.
I love that you said that, but I've told you a million times to go to the dining hall and sit with people you don't know, and you are not comfortable doing that. I'm just saying it's a great suggestion.
It's hard. You have to be willing to put yourself out there, and that is really hard, but the end result is worth it.
Yes. But again, all good suggestions.
Yes,
there are some
these are
people
just
that
ideas.
are able to do these things, and there's some people that aren't.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the reason you actually went to college, which is to get an education.
Oh, you mean school?
I mean school.
Oh, I
How
forgot about
are the
that.
academics? How are school? How is that side of school for you?
School is really hard to manage. From high school, as you know, I pushed myself a lot to be a straight A student.
You did.
And college is hard. So,
What was different? What's harder?
well, with everything, managing everything, first of all, I'm in the business school. So my classes were definitely hard. I was learning a lot of new things, and I failed my first test. And I literally called you and I was like, I'm dropping out of school.
Oh, you failed your first econ test. And in some classes, there is only a midterm and a final.
So
Or
this,
2 midterms and a final. So 3
I
tests.
I think I had 2 midterms.
Right. So there isn't homework. There isn't ways to get your grade up. And
No.
your first grade was an F. And you literally called me and said, I'm dropping out of school.
Yes. And
Which was incredibly dramatic.
very dramatic. And I had a panic attack. And
You did.
it was really hard. But I have pushed through, and you learn to manage your time better. It was just a big adjustment. But I would say I'm doing great, and I don't feel like it's too much. It's just I always like to push myself a little.
Yeah. I would say that freshman year, especially, you had so many changes going on at once. You also like have this class, and then a lot of the work you have to do is group projects and things with other people. So it's also scheduling your time and
Yes.
figuring that out. That was a lot. We got you a therapist.
Yep, that was
which
amazing.
was really helpful. And for those of you that might need it, we got you a tutor.
School-wise also, because I'm a nerd, go to office hours and meet with your TA. That is the best advice I could give anybody on this podcast. I swear to God. Meet with them. When the teacher gets to know you and the TAs get to know you, you build a relationship, and they really actually want to help you.
I told you that from the beginning of school. You waited until you had your first bad grade. But I did feel like office hours should be in your schedule like it's a class.
Yeah.
So that you just automatically go all the time. And if you only stay 10 minutes, you only stay 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's, definitely important to do. Let's talk about spending money. Let's talk about money and the spending aspect of college, and any advice you have on that.
So I didn't think that I spent a lot of money at first. And I didn't, because I was going to the dining hall and I was meeting friends for lunch and dinner, like at the places where we could be social on campus. But, and I hate to say it, but the food kind of gets old, and it's dining hall food. So I would start ordering Uber Eats or going out for dinner a lot, and it adds up. And that is not the best thing ever. So I would recommend getting a job before you go to college, or the summer, like after your freshman year, or even during college. Get one. There are ones where you can sit at a desk and say hi to people and just do your homework.
Basically, when we told you we weren't paying for Uber Eats anymore, all of a sudden, it was crazy.
I didn't order
You went
it.
to the dining hall more. You didn't use your own money.
Yes.
So it's trying to figure that out and manage that. But you spend a lot more money in college. And I think also, there's that guilt as a parent that when you're struggling so much, we were like, we wanted you to have those social experiences, and people were going out to dinner and we're eating together. So we didn't want to be like, you have to go to the dining hall if like the people you were trying to be social with were eating.
Exactly.
So I think that definitely was hard. Did you think you would miss home as much as you did?
No, but I really, because I went to overnight camp, I thought I was just going to be completely fine. I think living in college for the whole year is very different than 7 weeks. So I just miss the comfort of home and being around you guys and my bed and Sadie, our perfect baby dog. And that was very hard.
I also think that you're probably forgetting this, but you were sick all of freshman year.
I was very sick.
And I think, you weren't ill. You were
but
sick.
a
You
cold,
got colds,
a cough,
coughs,
stuffy nose.
Everyone,
Gross.
people called it frat flu.
Yeah.
Everyone was really sick freshman year. So I think
Nasty.
as a parent, when you're missing home as a kid, you want your mom. You want it, or your dad, or whoever you live
I had
with.
to take care of myself.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
And that's called independence.
Exactly.
Which is important.
Yes, I also think it helped a lot because I FaceTimed you guys, so it felt like I was home, and I will emphasize that so much. Like FaceTime, utilize it when you're at college.
Yes, which we love.
Best thing ever.
Okay.
Yeah. So there were a lot of different things that we talked about before I left for college. Do you want to just tell our listeners and parents and even the kids, everyone going into college, what we talked about?
Yes, I made a little list so I could remind myself and not forget
Of course
anything.
you did.
I'm a list person. The first thing I would say is make a financial budget.
Yes.
I think that was super important. My dad sat down with me when I graduated high school. I had the whole summer, and he said, you have the whole summer to figure this out, but you need to tell me what all your expenses are going to be. And I was like, what? I'd lived in his house. He said down to your contact solution, your deodorant,
Your toothpaste.
I didn't know how much all that cost
Yeah.
because they would just buy it for me when I was living at home. And it was an incredible exercise. I had an Excel spreadsheet. I remember making a list of everything in my room. I went to CVS. I was writing down, $2.25 or how now it's probably like $7 for a thing of toothpaste, but how much toothpaste was and contact solution was. And literally I made a big list and he was like, present me with the budget at the end of the summer. And what we did the same thing with you. And then we said, we're going to highlight the things that we're going to pay for and that you're going to pay for, which I thought was awesome because the expectations were set.
Absolutely.
I think the food thing we negotiated as time went on.
That was
but
definitely
everything
a little hard.
else, we figured out like what really was your responsibility to use your spending money on.
And what you guys
like
were
Halloween
willing to
costumes, which you had many of, and what was our responsibility. So I thought that was a very helpful thing that he did.
No, I agree.
Communication.
Yep.
So I was never worried about how much we would communicate. We over communicate, as most people would say. We talk a ton, we text, we communicate. But your brother's going off to college. So it's definitely something that I'm going to sit down with him, and talk about in a couple weeks about. I want to hear from him. I like communicating. I'm a communicator, but I don't want to put too much on him either. So definitely helpful to talk to your kids about how much you want to hear from them and how much they're willing to talk to you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The next thing is a controversial topic, but it's what we did as a family. We have you on Life 360. We've always had you on Life 360. I know some people have Find Your iPhone.
Same thing.
You don't mind it?
I don't. I'm willing. I don't care. I don't have anything to hide, so I don't care.
But it was never about that for us. So for me, and for parents thinking about this, Life 360 was more about when not to bother you.
Yeah.
I'm out doing work and I don't want to think about, am I texting her? I need to ask her a question. Is she in a class? So sometimes I'll look at it and be like, oh, she's in the business school building. I'm not going to text her.
Exactly.
So it's more little things like that. And I think that's what we use it for the most.
100%.
The next thing is taking Ubers alone. That was something that
Dangerous.
we felt really strongly about. I don't love you being in an Uber alone. And there's times that you have to do it. I'm more comfortable with it during the day, but our rule was always at night, if you're going out to a party or to a bar or wherever you go, and you have to get in an Uber alone for whatever reason, that you have to call me. And yes, there have been many, many 2:00 in the morning nights where I have gotten a phone call. I have you on an emergency breakthrough on my phone, which I didn't know you could do, but someone taught me that. And you call me, and that's very important to me. So that was definitely a good topic.
I think that's a good one.
This is a random one, but can you travel without permission? We talked about it before you left. And by that, I mean, if you go to Penn State for the weekend to visit your best friend, is that something I feel like I'd want you to communicate with me? And for us, it was yes. If you leave Maryland and you have your own money. So if you're going to get on an airplane and go somewhere, if you're going to get in a car and drive with someone, God forbid something happened and I didn't know you were even gone, that would upset me.
It's not like you can't tell me not to go, but it's just you just want to know where I am so I'm safe.
Exactly. And I would never have told you not to go. That's not my place to tell you. I just want to know where you are.
That makes a lot of sense.
I like to know where you are. So that was important to your father and I. Another kind of controversial topic is when you go off to college, everything goes to you. Your grades, don't, that access is yours. So
teachers don't call you.
No, I don't have any communication with school. So it was, if you're not doing well, we felt like we're paying for school, and that would be something that would be important to communicate to us.
Yeah.
And not just, again, we're very big on the prevention before the crisis here. And just, if you're not doing well, or if you, like when you got an F on your exam, just talking about it and saying, what can we do? And we got you a tutor. So that was important for us to have you communicate. The last thing on the list for me was the most important for your father, and that is get some forms filled out. There is a HIPAA form and a power of an attorney form that a friend told me that had an older daughter that went to college. And she said, try to have your daughter sign these. It was the greatest thing we have ever done. And we've used them twice. We used a lawyer, but there's also a place that you can go online, which is much more inexpensive, called Mama Bear. And it's incredible. They have all different forms, way more forms than just this, but they have the HIPAA form and the power of attorney form, and you literally can do it online. And it's definitely worth it for parents. Those forms are forms that give you as a parent access to your child's medical records and to hospital records and to be able to know what's going on with you. You were in the hospital.
And to make a decision if I'm not able to.
Yes. So you were in the hospital once, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to call the hospital and find out if you were there. They don't have to even tell me that you're in the hospital. And if you can't give consent, they don't have to tell me anything. So I actually had the forms. I was able to email them to the person I was talking to, and then she told me everything.
Crazy.
So for anyone that doesn't know, I feel like that is my biggest tip, is to get HIPAA forms signed, get power of attorney forms signed, and figure out what you need to do for your family for that kind of communication. That was helpful.
And the safety. It's the biggest
And
thing.
the safety, yeah.
Why was it so important for us to talk about all of this before I left for school?
So 2 reasons. The first reason is I think it's definitely easier to have a conversation in person. These are all serious topics. These are all things that are discussions. And again, when you got to school, all the little crises were things that you were dealing with. And I didn't feel or don't feel that those would be the times to have these conversations that, well, it would have put too much pressure on you and too much. So I think it's definitely something you talk about. I also just want to mention that a lot of the things that we're talking about are what we decided to do as a family and are important to us. By no means are our answers or what we came up with what anyone else should do as their family.
Yeah.
They're only suggestions of what to talk about. The solutions and the answers that we came up with are what each individual family decides to do for themselves.
I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome. What mom and parent kind of dynamics were going on for you at home while I was at school?
So
Sorry.
I had a tough time,
Yeah.
you know. You were struggling. And the way I look at it and the way I've always thought of things is I'm only as happy as my most unhappy child. So when you are struggling or unhappy, I have a tough time being happy. And I'm working on that because I know that in life, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs. And that's something that I also need to deal with. So I've been in therapy to realize that your stuff isn't my stuff, even though in some ways it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it definitely was a struggle for me at home.
I know. And I didn't make it very easy for you. And I am sorry for that. But
Ella, you have developed such strength and resilience from all of the difficult times that you've had in your life, including freshman year. So for that, like, you don't have to apologize to me.
And we both knew that I was in the right place. I just needed to give it time. And I gave it time, and I found the most amazing people.
Yeah.
So I feel grateful that you helped me get through that, and thank you.
Of course. And at home, just so you know, so you don't feel, you know, I have people here. I have an incredible support system myself. So I can't hide my emotions.
Yeah.
So, and also you were calling a lot. So if I was at a lunch with a friend or in a business meeting, I was like, I need to step out and talk to my daughter. So I had great support here.
Amazing.
And I feel like that was really important for me too.
So for our listeners, a lot of people don't know that before we started Chasing Red Flags, you were a professional organizer.
I was.
And I try to be as organized as you. I am not, but you have so many tips and tricks. Do you want to give some top takeaways for getting organized for freshman year?
So I think that would be, if I'm being honest, that would be a completely separate episode.
Okay.
And it would be long. So what I'll just say is that I made an incredibly long, comprehensive list that is probably over the top and way more than anyone would ever provide. But I'm happy to share it with everyone. If you want to DM Chasing Red Flags or send us an email, I'll just share the list. It's
Absolutely.
a long list. You certainly won't need everything on it.
You sent me tampons and Advil and Q-tips for literally an entire year, and we had a CVS on campus.
I know. I think I made the list in my head
Too detailed.
thinking if you didn't have a car or couldn't have an Amazon delivery.
That makes sense.
What would happen? So that's kind of how it works. But the list is great, and I'm happy to share it with anybody who wants it.
Love it.
Okay. If you had one piece of advice, like a quick hit on each topic to give everyone before the episode's over, what would it be? Friends, go.
Don't settle for superficial friendships. Find the real people who will support you when you're doing really well, but when you're also really sad and need a friend there. Those are really important.
That's how you make forever friends.
That's how you make forever friends, and you find your bridesmaids. And that's what you told me going into college.
Find your bridesmaids.
Find your bridesmaids.
Dorm life.
Take your time finding a roommate. Just get to know a few people and get to know their tics and their pet peeves and really learn about them before you choose, because you're going to be living with them all year.
School schedule.
Know your classes before you register. I think it's super important to look up the professors and kind of see what kind of teacher they are. Yes. And you can do that on some certain websites. They have one for UMD. I bet they have it for all schools. And I needed teachers that were willing to work with me and help me and support me, because it takes me a little longer just to study more.
You also wrote out lists so that before you signed up for a class,
it was like
you had options. If you didn't get into one, you had a backup
I had like two
plan.
Backup options.
So I would say that's my advice as a parent.
If you're
make sure
signing
your
up
kid
for
has
like
backup
5 classes,
plans.
have like one option for each in case you can't get into it.
Yes,
so
I think that's important.
Pick out 10 to 12 classes that you would be willing to take, you know?
And then you have to shift them in if you don't get into one.
Yeah.
Money.
You're going to spend a lot more than you think. So really budget and get a job. Try to get a job, make some sort of money, anything you can do. I know it's really hard with managing time, but it's very helpful.
Physical health.
This is going to be random, but I just think taking walks is so good for you, even if it's just like around the block.
Coming from a
and
walker.
Like, literally coming from walkers. But even if it's like, I like walking back from class. I think it's so fun, and you can just, it keeps you social. You can talk to people, and I don't know. I think it's a great way to just be around outside, get some fresh air. And also, I have to add one more, because I have 2 for this top hit. But you need to eat before you go out. Nothing good happens when you don't eat.
I think you need to repeat that one more time.
You need to eat before you go out. Nothing good happens when you don't eat.
Yes. Okay. Mental health.
Don't keep anything inside. And it's so hard. And I did it. So I am trying to not do it anymore. But you need to open up to somebody. I used the counseling center at my school, and it was amazing. They have a great support system there. Talk to your family if you're comfortable, like explaining what's going on and how you're feeling. I just think you need to remember that everyone is feeling it too. You're not alone in this sense. This is a whole new start for all freshmen, and you're not alone.
I honestly think that was it. The best advice that you could ask for. So we hope this episode helped all of you listening or watching. And Ella is always available if anyone has any questions or follow-ups. My list is always available. And as a parent or caregiver or someone sending off someone to college, I'm always available for the ups and downs if you don't feel like you have a support system and you need to, because we've had some highs and lows, and it's definitely worth just having people that support you. And we are trying to create that community here.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode and being here, and we'll be back soon. And in the meantime, keep being real, keep being you, and know that we've got your back. If you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to say hi, we would love to hear from you. Your support means everything to us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Chasing Red Flags Official, and on Facebook and YouTube at Chasing Red Flags. And if you want to share your story, ask a question, or pick up some Chasing Red Flags merch, go to ChasingRedFlags.com. The Chasing Red Flags podcast is produced by Jay Del Turco. We are new in this space, so if you enjoyed what you're hearing, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or add a comment and like on our YouTube channel.